The funeral director's hands were shaking as he lowered Nana's casket into the ground. Not from grief, from the cold. March in Ohio feels like winter's last cruel joke, and standing in Riverside Cemetery at 10 in the morning, watching the only person who ever truly loved me disappear forever, I felt every degree of it. My name is Teresa, and I was 25 years old the day I buried my grandmother and unknowingly signed my own death warrant with my family. "Teresa, come stand with us," my mother Susan called out, her voice carrying that fake warmth she reserved for public performances. She was positioned front and center, dabbing her eyes with a tissue that somehow never smudged her mascara.
Family should be together during times like this. I stayed where I was, about 10 feet back from the graveside, close enough to pay my respects, far enough to avoid the theater. "She's being dramatic again," my sister Tiffany whispered, not as quietly as she thought. At 27, Tiffany had perfected the art of the stage whisper, loud enough for the target to hear, quiet enough to maintain plausible deniability. My younger brother Quentin snorted. "Some things never change." Dad just stood there, hands in his coat pockets, saying nothing. Trevor Martin, master of the strategic silence. The pastor droned on about eternal rest and God's plan, but I wasn't listening. I was remembering last Tuesday, sitting in Nana's hospital room while she gripped my hand with surprising strength.
"Promise me something, sweetheart," she'd said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Anything, Nana. Don't let them make you small. You're worth more than they'll ever understand." At the time, I thought she was talking about my self-esteem. Now I wonder if she knew something I didn't. The service ended, and people started drifting toward their cars. Susan immediately launched into hostess mode, inviting everyone back to the house for lunch. "It's what Gemma would have wanted," she announced to anyone within earshot. "She always said food brings families together." Nana actually said food was love made visible, but Susan had never been one for accurate quotes. I found myself walking beside Mrs. Patterson, Nana's next-door neighbor for 30 years. "Your grandmother talked about you constantly," she said, adjusting her scarf against the wind. "She was so proud of you finishing college, getting that job at the marketing firm." "Thank you. That means a lot. She worried about you, though. Said your family didn't appreciate what they had." I glanced over at Susan, who was now holding court near the parking lot, gesturing animatedly as she spoke to the pastor. "Nana always saw things clearly," I said. Back at the house, Susan and Dad's house, not Nana's, the living room filled with casserole dishes and awkward condolences. I helped arrange food in the kitchen, grateful for something to do with my hands. "This is beautiful, Susan," said Janet from Nana's church. "Is this new?" I looked up from the potato salad I was transferring to a serving bowl. Susan was showing off a set of crystal glasses I'd never seen before. "Oh, these old things?" Susan laughed, but her eyes were bright with pride. "I've been treating myself to a few nice pieces lately. Life's too short, you know." "Absolutely. You work so hard, you deserve nice things." I bit my tongue and went back to the potato salad. The afternoon dragged on. People shared memories of Nana, her legendary Christmas cookies, her volunteer work at the animal shelter, the way she never forgot a birthday. Susan nodded along, occasionally adding her own stories, most of which I was pretty sure were exaggerated. Around 4 o'clock, as the crowd was thinning, I overheard Dad talking to his brother Mike near the back door. "Susan's been looking at houses," Dad said quietly. "Big ones. Says it's time we upgraded." "Business must be good," Mike replied. Something like that. Dad's voice was strange, almost guilty. "She found this place out in Westfield. Beautiful property, way more than we need, but you know Susan." I pretended to be absorbed in wrapping leftover sandwiches, but my ears were tuned to every word. "How much are we talking?" Mike asked. Dad glanced around, then leaned closer. "Let's just say it's a significant investment." After everyone left, I helped clean up while Susan sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. "I'm exhausted," she announced. Funerals are so draining. Nana would have appreciated today, I said, loading the dishwasher. She always loved having people over. She did love her parties, Susan agreed absently, then looked up from her phone. Oh, Teresa, before I forget, Mr. Jacoby from Nana's lawyer's office dropped this off for you. She handed me a manila envelope with my name written on it in Nana's careful script. My heart jumped. What is it? How should I know? Probably some keepsake or something. I took the envelope to my old bedroom and carefully opened it. Inside was nothing. Completely empty except for a faint smell of Nana's lavender perfume. I stared at the envelope, turning it over in my hands. Why would Nana's lawyer deliver an empty envelope? Had something fallen out? Been removed? Downstairs, I could hear Susan on the phone, her voice animated. I know it's expensive, but we can make it work. Yes, I'm serious about the offer. I held the empty envelope up to the light, looking for any clue about what might have been inside. There was nothing. But something cold was settling in my stomach, a feeling I couldn't quite name yet. It would be 3 months before I understood what that feeling was. It was the first whisper of betrayal. 3 months later, I was sitting in Corner Cafe on 5th Street, stabbing at a wilted salad and trying to forget about my disaster of a morning meeting, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. The Martin family? Oh yes, lovely people. Susan was an absolute dream to work with. I turned around and saw Felix, the real estate agent who'd helped my parents buy their current house 5 years ago. He was talking to a young couple, showing them something on his tablet. She just closed on the most gorgeous estate in Westfield, he continued. 3.2 million. Stunning property. 8 bedrooms, pool, guest house. She said it was always her dream home. The fork slipped from my hand and clattered onto my plate. $3.2 million. I sat there, frozen, as Felix's voice faded into background noise. My parents lived in a nice house, sure, but it was worth maybe $400,000 on a good day. Dad managed a small accounting firm. Mom worked part-time at a boutique. Where the hell would they get $3 million? Excuse me, I said, turning around in my chair. Felix, right? You sold my parents their house on Maple Street. His face lit up with recognition. Teresa, how are you, sweetheart? I'm so sorry for your loss. Your grandmother was a wonderful woman. Thank you. I couldn't help overhearing. Did you say my mom bought a house in Westfield? Oh yes, closed last month. Absolutely beautiful property on Lakewood Drive. Your mother was over the moon about it. Last month? The words came out strangled. She didn't tell you? Well, maybe it's a surprise. I probably shouldn't have said anything. I forced a smile. No, it's fine. I've been so busy with work we haven't talked much lately. That was a lie. We hadn't talked because Susan had been dodging my calls since the funeral. I left the cafe in a daze and drove straight to the courthouse. If Susan had bought a house, there would be public records. Deeds, mortgage information, all of it. The clerk at the records office was helpful but slow. It took 2 hours to find what I was looking for, but there it was. A warranty deed for 1247 Lakewood Drive, Westfield, Ohio. Purchased by Susan Martin for $3.2 million, cash sale, no mortgage. Cash. I stared at the document until the words blurred together. Then I asked for probate records for Gemma Wong, deceased March 15th. Those are sealed pending final distribution, the clerk said. Are you a beneficiary? I should be. She was my grandmother. You'll need to contact the executor or the attorney of record. The executor was listed as Susan Martin. I drove home on autopilot, my mind racing. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, I had a plan. That evening I called my mom. Teresa, what a surprise. How are you, honey? I'm good, Mom. I was wondering if we could get together soon. I feel like we haven't talked since the funeral. Oh, you know how crazy things have been. Work has been absolutely insane. I heard you might be moving?
The pause was so long I thought the call had dropped. Where did you hear that? Dad mentioned something about looking at houses. Well, we've been thinking about it, nothing concrete yet. That's exciting.
I'd love to see whatever you're considering. It's really early in the process, Teresa. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I tried a different approach. Mom, I've been wondering about Nana's will. That empty envelope from her lawyer seems strange.
What about it?
Well, it was empty. Don't you think that's odd? Honey, your grandmother was 92 years old. Maybe she forgot to put something in it. Or maybe it was just a mistake. Have you heard anything from the lawyer about the estate? Another pause. These things take time, Teresa. There's a process. But you're the executor, right? Shouldn't you know what's happening? I don't appreciate the interrogation. Susan's voice had shifted, becoming sharp. Your grandmother left things in order. When there's something you need to know, you'll know it. I'm not interrogating you, I'm asking about my inheritance. Your inheritance? Susan laughed, but it sounded forced. Sweetheart, your grandmother didn't have much. The house needs work, and there are debts to settle. You might want to adjust your expectations. What kind of debts? Medical bills, credit cards. You know how it is with elderly people. Look, I have to go. Trevor's calling me for dinner. She hung up before I could respond. I sat on my couch, staring at my phone. Something was very wrong. Nana had always been careful with money. She'd owned her house outright for decades, had good insurance, and lived simply. What debts could she possibly have had? I opened my laptop and started researching. Within an hour, I'd found 3 different websites that offered background checks and financial records. I paid the fee and entered Susan's information. The results made my stomach drop. Bank records showed a massive deposit into Susan's checking account 6 weeks after Nana's funeral. The amount was partially redacted, but I could see it started with a 3 and had 7 digits. My phone buzzed with an email from an address I didn't recognize. cellis.forensics@agmail.com. Ms. Martin, I specialize in estate fraud and financial investigations. I came across some irregularities in public records that may be of interest to you. If you'd like to discuss, please call me at your earliest convenience. Our Christine Ellis, CPA, CFE. I stared at the email for a full minute before I realized I was holding my breath. Then I picked up my phone and dialed. Christine Ellis. This is Teresa Martin. You just emailed me? Yes, I think we need to talk. Christine's office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. Not exactly where I'd expected to meet someone who might hold the key to my family's secrets. She was younger than I'd imagined, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and the kind of no-nonsense handshake that meant business. Coffee? She offered, gesturing to a small machine in the corner. Please. She poured 2 cups and sat across from me at a small conference table covered in manila folders. So, Teresa, tell me what you know about your grandmother's estate. Apparently nothing, I said. My mom says there wasn't much money, just debts, and a house that needs work. But she just bought a $3 million house with cash. Christine opened one of the folders. Your grandmother had a trust account with First National. On March 20th, 5 days after her death, $3.5 million was transferred out of that account. The coffee cup slipped in my hands. $3.5 million? The transfer was authorized by Susan Martin as executor. The funds went directly into her personal checking account. That's my inheritance. It appears so. I've been tracking similar cases, family members who abuse their executor privileges. Your situation caught my attention because of the timing and the amount. I set down my coffee before I dropped it. What can I do? First, we need to establish what you were supposed to inherit. Do you have any documentation? Letters, emails, anything from your grandmother about her intentions? Just an empty envelope from her lawyer. Christine made a note. We'll need to contact the attorney who drafted the will, but first, I'd recommend getting your own lawyer, someone who specializes in estate disputes.
She slid a business card across the table. Jacoby Erickson. He's good, and he's not afraid of messy family situations. How messy are we talking? Teresa, if what I suspect is true, your mother committed fraud. That's not just messy, it's criminal. I called Jacoby from the parking lot. His secretary scheduled me for the next morning. That evening, I drove to Westfield. I had to see this house for myself. Lakewood Drive was exactly what you'd expect from a $3 million neighborhood. Manicured lawns, circular driveways, houses that looked like they belonged in magazines. Number 1247 was stunning. Stone and brick facade, towering windows, a front door that probably cost more than my car. Susan's BMW was in the driveway, along with Tiffany's Honda and a car I didn't recognize. I parked across the street and watched. Through the large front windows, I could see people moving around inside. A party, maybe, or just family dinner in their new palace. My phone rang. Quentin. Hey, T. What are you up to? Just driving around. You? At Mom's new place. You should see this house. It's incredible. She's got a wine cellar, Teresa. An actual wine cellar. Sounds amazing. How did she afford it? Inheritance money, I think. From Nana. Mom said there was more than anyone expected. I watched Susan appear in the front window, gesturing animatedly to someone I couldn't see. Did she say how much? Nah, you know how Mom is about money. But it had to be a lot for a place like this. Quentin, did you get anything? From the inheritance, I mean? Mom helped me pay off my student loans last month, 25 grand, said it was what Nana would have wanted. My grip tightened on the phone. That was generous. Yeah, and she paid off Tiffany's credit cards too. Some designer shopping spree that got out of hand. Mom said we're family. We take care of each other. What about me? The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if he'd hung up. What do you mean? Did Mom mention anything about my share? Teresa, you know how you and Mom are. Maybe if you made more of an effort. Made more of an effort to what? I don't know. Be part of the family? You've been distant since Nana died. Mom thinks you blame her for something. I watched Susan raise a wine glass in what looked like a toast. I have to go, Quentin. Teresa, wait. I hung up and sat in my car, staring at the house that should have been mine. Not to live in. I didn't need 8 bedrooms and a wine cellar, but it represented something bigger. It was proof that Nana had wanted to take care of me, and Susan had stolen that chance. The next morning, Jacoby's office was everything Christine's wasn't. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, law books lining the walls. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with the kind of confidence that came from winning cases. Christine filled me in on the basics, he said, reviewing the folder she'd given him. This is pretty straightforward fraud, assuming we can prove your grandmother intended you to inherit. How do we prove that? We start with the will. I'll file a motion to unseal the probate records. Your mother won't be able to hide behind executor privilege much longer. What if she fights it? She will. But Teresa, the law is on your side here. Executors can't just take inheritance money for themselves, no matter what family dynamics are at play. He leaned forward. I have to ask, are you prepared for this to get ugly? Family disputes usually do. I thought about Susan toasting in her stolen house, about Quentin and Tiffany getting their debts paid while I got an empty envelope. It's already ugly, I said. I just want what's mine. Then let's get it back. He started drafting papers that afternoon. By the end of the week, Susan would know I was coming for her. But first, I had one more stop to make. The courthouse steps were slick with morning rain when I met Jacoby outside the probate division. He carried a leather briefcase that looked like it meant business. Ready for this? He asked. As ready as someone can be to legally declare war on their own mother. We walked through the metal detectors and up to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled like old paper and broken dreams. Emergency motion to freeze remaining estate assets and unseal probate records, Jacoby explained to the clerk. We're alleging executor misconduct.
The clerk stamped our papers with the kind of efficiency that comes from seeing family drama every day. Hearing is scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m. All interested parties will be notified. How long before Susan finds out? I asked as we walked back to the parking garage. She'll get served tomorrow. After that, it's game on. I didn't have to wait long. Susan called me at work the next afternoon, and she was furious. What the hell do you think you're doing, Teresa? I'm protecting my inheritance, the one you stole. Stole? I'm the executor of your grandmother's estate. Everything I've done has been legal and proper. Including buying yourself a $3 million house? The pause told me everything I needed to know. I don't know what lies people have been filling your head with, but bank records don't lie, Mom. $3.5 million transferred from Nana's trust account to your checking account. That's not executor fees. You have no idea what you're talking about. Your grandmother had debts, obligations. What debts? She owned her house outright and had excellent insurance. This conversation is over. You want to drag our family through court? Fine. But don't come crying to me when you realize what you've done. She hung up, but my phone rang again within minutes. Tiffany this time. Teresa, what is wrong with you? Hello to you too, Tiff. Mom is crying. Actually crying. Do you have any idea what you've put her through? About as much as she put me through when she stole my inheritance. Stole? God, you're so dramatic. Mom worked her ass off taking care of Nana's affairs. She deserves something for all that work. $3.5 million worth of something? I don't know what you think you know, but you're tearing this family apart over money. Money, Teresa. Is that really what Nana would have wanted? Nana would have wanted her wishes respected, not ignored so Mom could buy her dream house. You know what? I'm done with this conversation. And I'm done with you until you come to your senses. The line went dead. 20 minutes later, Quentin called. T, we need to talk. Let me guess. Mom sent you to talk sense into me? She's devastated. She spent all morning on the phone with lawyers. Do you know how much this is going to cost? Probably less than the house she bought with my money. Your money? Teresa, you sound insane right now. Mom took care of Nana for years. She drove her to doctor appointments, managed her medications, dealt with all the paperwork. You visited once a month and think you deserve everything? I visited every week, Quentin. Every single week for 5 years. That's not how Mom remembers it. Of course it isn't. Look, maybe there was some miscommunication about the inheritance, but suing your own mother? That's nuclear, T. There's no coming back from that. There was no miscommunication. There was theft. Jesus Christ, Teresa. Listen to yourself. You've turned into someone I don't even recognize. He hung up too. Thursday morning, Christine called with an update. I've been digging deeper into Susan's finances. The student loan payment to Quentin was $50,000, not $25 like he told you. And Tiffany's credit card payoff was $38,000. So they both got money from Nana's estate. Money that should have gone to you. I'm also seeing some interesting purchases in the weeks after the transfer. Designer furniture, jewelry, a lease on a new Mercedes. She's been spending like she won the lottery. In a way, she did, but it wasn't her lottery to win. The courthouse was busier on Thursday afternoon. Jacoby and I arrived early and claimed a bench in the hallway outside the courtroom. Susan will probably have representation, he warned. Don't let them intimidate you. We have the law on our side. At exactly 2 o'clock, Susan walked through the courthouse doors with a man in an expensive suit. She looked smaller than I remembered, older somehow, but her eyes were hard when they met mine. Teresa, she said coldly. Mom. We didn't speak again until we were called into the courtroom. Judge Martinez was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who looked like she'd heard every family sob story in the book. This is an emergency motion to freeze estate assets and unseal probate records, she announced. Mr. Erickson, you're representing the petitioner? Yes, Your Honor. We believe the executor has misappropriated estate funds for personal use. Susan's lawyer, a silver-haired man named Patterson, stood up. Your Honor, Mrs. Martin has acted within her authority as executor. These allegations are baseless and motivated by family discord. Mr. Erickson, what evidence do you have of misconduct? Jacoby presented Christine's financial analysis, the bank records showing the transfer, and documentation of Susan's subsequent purchases. Judge Martinez reviewed the documents in silence. The only sound in the courtroom was the clock ticking on the wall. Finally, she looked up. Mrs. Martin, can you explain the $3.5 million transfer from the decedent's trust account to your personal checking account? Susan's lawyer whispered something in her ear before she answered. Your Honor, there were significant estate debts and administrative costs. The transfer was necessary to properly manage the estate's obligations. And the purchase of a residential property for $3.2 million? Another whispered consultation. That was a personal transaction, unrelated to the estate. Judge Martinez's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room. Motion granted. All remaining estate assets are frozen pending investigation. Probate records are unsealed effective immediately. Mrs. Martin, you are hereby removed as executor. The court will appoint a neutral administrator. Susan's face went white. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm ordering a full forensic audit of all estate transactions. This matter will be referred to the district attorney's office for potential criminal investigation. The gavel came down with finality. Susan didn't look at me as she left the courtroom, but I heard her lawyer telling her something about criminal liability and potential jail time. I had won the first battle, but looking at my mother's defeated posture as she walked away, I realized winning felt a lot lonelier than I'd expected. 2 weeks after the hearing, Felix called me. Teresa, I have an unusual request. I'm working with a client who's interested in the Lakewood Drive property. Would you be available to show it? I don't understand. My mother owns that house. Actually, according to the court records, you do. The deed transfer was completed yesterday. You're now the legal owner of 1247 Lakewood Drive. I sat down hard in my desk chair. I own it? The court-appointed administrator moved quickly. All fraudulent transactions have been reversed. Congratulations, you're now the owner of a very expensive piece of real estate. Does Susan know? I assume her attorney informed her. The family has 30 days to vacate. That evening, I drove to Westfield. I needed to see the house again, knowing it was mine. The circular driveway felt different under my feet. The massive front door with its brass knocker wasn't intimidating anymore. It was just a door. My door. I used the key Felix had given me and stepped inside. The foyer was 2 stories high with a crystal chandelier that probably cost more than my annual salary. To the left was a formal living room with furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. To the right, a dining room with a table that could seat 12. Hello? I called out. Anyone home? Silence. I walked through the kitchen. Granite countertops, professional-grade appliances, an island bigger than my entire apartment kitchen. French doors led to a patio overlooking the pool and perfectly manicured backyard. This was what $3.5 million looked like. This was what Nana had wanted me to have. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the news about the house. Good for you. F. Felix, I assumed. The next morning, Jacoby called with an update. The forensic audit is complete. Christine found everything. The fraudulent transfers, the personal purchases, even some forged documents. The DA is moving forward with charges. What kind of charges? Felony theft, fraud, forgery. Susan could be looking at serious prison time. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. There's something else, Jacoby continued. The court administrator found a sealed envelope in the probate file. It's addressed to you, in your grandmother's handwriting. Can you bring it to me? I'll be there in an hour. The envelope was thick, cream-colored paper with my name written in Nana's careful script. Inside was a letter dated 2 weeks before she died. My dearest Teresa, it began. If you're reading this, then Susan has tried to keep my final wishes from you. I'm not surprised. She's always been jealous of our relationship. My hands shook as I continued reading. I'm leaving everything to you, because you're the only one who loved me for who I was, not what I could give you. Susan has spent years waiting for me to die so she could get her hands on my money. Your siblings follow her lead in everything. But you, my sweet girl, you visited me because you wanted to, not because you felt obligated. The letter went on to explain her decision in detail. How she'd watched Susan manipulate the family for years. How she'd seen Tiffany and Quentin treat me like an outsider. How she'd hoped her gift would give me the independence to build a life away from their toxicity. Use this money wisely, Teresa. Don't let them guilt you into sharing it. You owe them nothing. The letter was signed with her full name and witnessed by two people I didn't recognize. That weekend, Susan threw a party. I found out about it from Tiffany's Instagram story. Photos of people lounging by the pool, drinking champagne, celebrating something called Summer at the Estate. The caption read, "Mom's new place is goals. Living our best life. Blessed, nas family, nas summer fun." I screenshot every post. Sunday evening, I got a call from my neighbor, Mrs. Chen. Wait, Mrs. Patterson. She lived across the street from the Westfield house. "Are you the new owner of the house on Lakewood Drive?" "Yes, ma'am." "Well, I thought you should know there's been quite a bit of activity over there. Parties, loud music, people coming and going at all hours. The previous owner, your mother, I believe, seems to think she still lives there. Thank you for letting me know. Are you planning to do something about it?" I looked at the screenshots from Tiffany's Instagram, at the photos of my family celebrating in my house, drinking champagne bought with my money. "Yes," I said, "I am." Monday morning, I called Jacoby. "I want to take possession of the house." "Are you sure? Your family is still living there." "They have 3 more weeks to move out. I want to inspect my property." "I'll arrange for a sheriff's escort." "When?" I thought about Susan's party, about the champagne toasts and the Instagram posts. "This Friday, 2 o'clock. Teresa, are you prepared for how they're going to react?" I pulled out Nana's letter and read the last paragraph again. "Don't let them make you small. You are worth more than they will ever understand. I'm prepared." Friday afternoon, I met Jacoby and 2 sheriff's deputies in the driveway of 1247 Lakewood Drive. Susan's BMW was there, along with Tiffany's Honda and a catering van. "Looks like they're having another party," Jacoby observed. Through the windows, I could see people in the living room, laughter carried from the backyard. "Let's go," I said. The front door was unlocked. We walked into the foyer just as Susan appeared from the kitchen, carrying a tray of appetizers. She froze when she saw us. "What are you doing here?" "This is my house, Mom. I'm here to inspect my property." "Your house?" She set down the tray with shaking hands. "Teresa, this is my home. Our home. You can't just—" "I can, actually. I'm the legal owner." Tiffany appeared from the living room with 2 of her friends. "Teresa, what's going on?" "Your sister is having some kind of breakdown," Susan said loudly. "She thinks she owns this house." One of the deputies stepped forward. "Ma'am, according to the court order, this property belongs to Teresa Martin. You have until the end of the month to vacate." The color drained from Susan's face. Behind her, I could see party guests gathering in the doorway, sensing drama. "You're really doing this?" Susan's voice was barely a whisper. "In front of everyone?" I looked around at the house that should have been mine from the beginning, at the family who had excluded me, mocked me, stolen from me. "Yes," I said. "I really am." The silence in the foyer stretched like a held breath. Susan's party guests clustered behind her, champagne glasses forgotten in their hands, sensing they'd walked into something much bigger than a family disagreement. "Everyone out," Susan said quietly, not taking her eyes off me. "Party's over." "Susan, what's happening?" asked a woman in a designer dress who looked like she'd stepped out of a country club brochure. "Just go, Margaret, please." The guests filed out through the front door, whispering among themselves. I heard fragments. Legal trouble, and family drama, and so embarrassing.
When the last guest left, Susan turned back to me. Are you happy now? You've humiliated me in front of my friends. Your friends? I gestured around the marble foyer. In my house? With my money? Tiffany stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. Teresa, this is insane. Mom raised us in this family. She took care of Nana for years while you were off playing the victim. I visited Nana every week for 5 years. Bullshit, Quentin said, appearing from the kitchen. You showed up when it was convenient. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to my photos. Here's me and Nana at her doctor's appointment in January. Here's us at lunch in February. Here's me helping her with her medications every Tuesday for the past 2 years. I kept scrolling, showing them photo after photo. Where are your pictures, Quentin? Where's your evidence of all this care you supposedly provided? We don't need to document every moment to prove we loved her, Susan snapped. No, but you needed to document forging her signature on estate documents. I pulled out the forensic audit report. Christine found everything, Mom. The forged transfer documents, the backdated executor appointments, the fake debt statements you created to justify stealing my inheritance. Susan's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because the handwriting expert says otherwise. Apparently, you're not very good at copying Nana's signature. Jacoby stepped forward. Mrs. Martin, I should inform you that the district attorney has issued a warrant for your arrest. You're being charged with felony theft, fraud, and forgery. Arrest? Tiffany's voice cracked. Mom, what is he talking about? Susan sank onto the marble bench by the front door. I was protecting this family. Your grandmother was going to leave everything to Teresa out of spite. She never cared about the rest of us. She left it to me because I was the only one who loved her without expecting anything in return, I said. Love? Susan laughed bitterly. You think this is about love? Your grandmother played favorites from the day you were born. She undermined every decision I made as your mother. She turned you against your own family. She didn't turn me against anyone. You did that all by yourselves. Quentin was pacing now, running his hands through his hair. This is fucked up. This is so fucked up. Teresa, you're going to send our mother to prison over money? I'm not sending her anywhere. Her choices sent her there. Her choices? Tiffany was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. She's our mother. She sacrificed everything for us. She sacrificed my inheritance for herself, I corrected. And apparently for both of you too. How much did she give you, Tiffany? 50,000? 100? Tiffany's silence was answer enough. And you, Quentin? Your student loans plus what else? A down payment on that new car? Jesus Christ, Teresa. Quentin stopped pacing and stared at me. When did you become so cold? When I realized my own family would rather steal from me than treat me like I mattered. Susan stood up slowly, her composure finally cracking. You want to know the truth, Teresa? Fine. Your grandmother left you everything because she knew it would destroy this family. She was a bitter, manipulative woman who couldn't stand that I built a life without her approval. She left me everything because she loved me. She left you everything because she wanted to hurt me. Susan's voice echoed off the marble walls. She spent 25 years punishing me for not being the daughter she wanted. And now you're finishing what she started. I pulled Nana's letter from my purse and held it up. She left me a letter explaining her decision. Want to hear what she really thought about this family? Teresa, don't, Dad said quietly. He'd been standing in the doorway to the living room, silent until now. Why not, Dad? Afraid of what she might have said about you? About how you enabled Mom's behavior for years? That's enough, he said, but his voice had no strength behind it. I unfolded the letter. She wrote, Susan has spent years waiting for me to die so she could get her hands on my money. Your siblings follow her lead in everything. But you, my sweet girl, you visited me because you wanted to, not because you felt obligated. Stop, Susan whispered. I kept reading.
I've watched Susan manipulate this family for years. I've seen Tiffany and Quentin treat you like an outsider. I hoped my gift would give you the independence to build a life away from their toxicity." "Stop!" Susan screamed. The word bounced off the walls and hung in the air like a slap. "She knew," I said quietly. "She saw exactly who you all were, and she chose me anyway." Tiffany was sobbing now. Loud, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Quentin had his head in his hands. Dad just stared at the floor. Susan straightened her shoulders and looked at me with something that might have been respect, if it hadn't been mixed with so much hate. "Congratulations, Teresa. You won. You got your money, your house, your revenge. I hope it was worth destroying your family." "I didn't destroy this family, Mom. I just stopped pretending it existed." The deputies moved forward. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." Susan held out her hands for the handcuffs without being asked. As they led her toward the door, she turned back one last time. "Don't expect forgiveness for this, Teresa. Some things can't be undone." "I'm not expecting anything from any of you anymore," I replied. "That's the point." The front door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded like finality. I stood alone in the foyer of my $3 million house, surrounded by the wreckage of the only family I'd ever known, and realized that winning felt exactly like losing. 3 days later, I returned to the house with a locksmith and a cleaning crew. What I found inside made my stomach turn. The kitchen cabinets hung open, emptied of everything valuable. The crystal chandelier in the foyer was gone, leaving exposed wires dangling from the ceiling. Holes in the walls showed where artwork had been ripped down, probably damaging both the pieces and the drywall. "Looks like someone was in a hurry," said Maria, the cleaning crew supervisor, surveying the damage. The master bedroom was the worst. Susan had taken everything: furniture, curtains, even the light fixtures. But she'd left something behind. A framed family photo from last Christmas, smashed on the floor with a note taped to it. "Hope your house keeps you warm at night. Your loving family." I picked up the broken glass carefully. In the photo, we were all smiling around Nana's Christmas tree. Susan had her arms around Tiffany and Quentin. I stood slightly apart, but Nana's hand was on my shoulder. "Ma'am?" Maria appeared in the doorway. "We found something in the garage you should see." In the 3-car garage, Susan had spray-painted "Thief" across the back wall in red letters 3 feet high. "We can paint over that," Maria said gently. "It'll take a few coats, but it'll come out." My phone rang. Jacoby. "Teresa, I have news. Susan made bail, but there's a condition. She's not allowed within 500 feet of you or the property. She's already been here. The place is trashed. Document everything. Take photos. We'll add property destruction to the charges." That evening, I sat in my apartment scrolling through social media. Tiffany had posted a long Facebook rant about family betrayal and blood money. The comments were a mix of support and confusion from people who didn't know the whole story. "Praying for your family during this difficult time," wrote one of her friends. "Your sister sounds like a psychopath," wrote another. Quentin had been quieter, just posting a cryptic status. "Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones you'd die for." But it was the video that really got to me. Someone had recorded Susan's arrest at the house and posted it on TikTok. The caption read, "Rich lady gets arrested at her own party for stealing from her daughter." It had been viewed 50,000 times. The comments were brutal. The daughter did what she had to do. Family or not, theft is theft. Imagine stealing from your own child. But also, this is so sad. Families shouldn't destroy each other over money. I closed the app and called Christine. "I've been thinking about the house," I said. "I don't want to live in it." "Understandable. It's got to feel complicated. I want to do something with it. Something that would have made Nana proud." "What did you have in mind?" "She volunteered at the women's shelter for 20 years. What if I turned the house into transitional housing? a place where women could stay while they get back on their feet. Christine was quiet for a moment. That's a beautiful idea, Teresa. But it's a big undertaking. You'd need permits, renovations, staff. I know. But I have the money now. Nana's money. Maybe this is what she would have wanted. Have you thought about the optics? Your family's going to say you're doing it for publicity, to make yourself look good after destroying them. Let them say whatever they want. They've already said worse. The next morning, I met with an architect who specialized in residential to commercial conversions. Her name was Sarah, and she had kind eyes and practical ideas. The house has good bones, she said, walking through the empty rooms. We could convert the bedrooms into private suites, turn the formal dining room into a common area, maybe add a children's playroom in the basement. How many families could it house? 8 to 10, depending on the configuration. Maybe more if we add a small apartment building in the back where the pool house is. We spent 3 hours going through possibilities. By the end, I had a rough budget. $2 million for renovations and setup costs, plus ongoing operational expenses. It's ambitious, Sarah said as we stood in the foyer. But it's doable. Have you thought about what to call it? I looked around the space where Susan had thrown her parties, where she'd celebrated with my stolen money. The Gemma House, I said, after my grandmother. That afternoon, I started a blog. I called it Building Something Better, and wrote about Nana, about the inheritance, about my plans for the house. I included photos of the damage Susan had left behind, the spray-painted walls, the broken family photo. My family says I destroyed them for money, I wrote. But they destroyed themselves with greed and lies. Now I'm going to build something from the ashes, something that actually helps people instead of just helping ourselves. I hit publish and went to bed. I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. The blog post had been shared on Reddit, then Twitter, then picked up by local news. By noon, it had gone viral. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. This woman turned her trauma into something beautiful. Her family should be ashamed of themselves. I want to donate to this project. That last comment appeared dozens of times. People were asking how they could contribute to the shelter. By evening, I had interview requests from 3 local news stations and a producer from a national morning show. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Teresa? This is Quentin. My heart jumped. Quentin. I saw your blog post and the news coverage. And? I wanted to apologize. For everything. You were right about Mom, about all of it. I couldn't see it. What changed your mind? She asked me to lie for her, at her trial. She wanted me to testify that you never visited Nana, that you were just after her money. When I said no, she lost it. Called me ungrateful, said I was just like you. I sat down heavily on my couch. I'm sorry, Quentin. No, I'm sorry. I should have seen what she was doing years ago. We all should have. What about Tiffany? She's still defending Mom. Says you're doing the shelter thing for publicity, to make yourself look like the victim. And what do you think? I think you're doing something Nana would be proud of, and I think I'd like to help, if you'll let me. For the first time in months, I smiled. I'd like that, I said. Teresa? Yeah? I love you. I should have said that a long time ago. I love you too. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment and realized something had shifted. The anger that had been driving me for months was still there, but it felt different now. Cleaner. Like it had a purpose beyond just getting even. I opened my laptop and started writing the next blog post. Today, my brother called to apologize, I began. And I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. Sometimes it's building something so beautiful that their ugliness can't touch it. The morning of the grand opening, I stood in the foyer of the Gemma House, watching a mother help her 6-year-old daughter hang a drawing on the refrigerator in their new kitchen. The little girl had drawn a house with a big sun overhead and stick figures holding hands. "That's beautiful, Maya," her mother said, smoothing the paper against the stainless steel surface that had once showcased Susan's imported cheeses and champagne. "It's our new home," Maya announced proudly. "The nice lady said we can stay as long as we need to." The nice lady. I liked that better than the woman who destroyed her family for money, which was still making the rounds on social media. "Teresa?" Sarah, the architect, appeared beside me. "The news crew is here for the ribbon cutting. Are you ready?" I looked around the transformed space. Where Susan's crystal chandelier had hung, we'd installed warm pendant lights that made the foyer feel welcoming instead of intimidating. The formal living room was now a children's playroom filled with books and toys. The dining room had become a computer lab where residents could work on job applications and take online classes. As ready as I'll ever be. Outside, a small crowd had gathered. Local officials, donors who'd contributed after the blog went viral, volunteers who'd helped with the renovation. Quentin stood near the front, wearing a Gemma House volunteer t-shirt. He'd kept his promise to help, spending weekends painting walls and assembling furniture. Tiffany wasn't there. She'd sent a text the night before. "I hope you're happy now." I deleted it without responding. "Ladies and gentlemen," the mayor began, "we're here to celebrate the opening of the Gemma House, a transitional housing facility that will serve up to 12 families at a time." I half listened to the speeches about community service and second chances. My attention was on the families already living here. Women who'd left abusive relationships, single mothers who'd lost their jobs, teenagers who'd aged out of foster care. They were the real reason we were here. And now, I'd like to introduce the founder of the Gemma House, Teresa Martin. The applause was polite, but warm. I stepped up to the microphone, looking out at faces I recognized, and many I didn't. "6 months ago, I inherited money from my grandmother," I began. "Money that was supposed to give me security, independence, a fresh start. Instead, it nearly destroyed what was left of my family." Someone in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the usual feel-good charity speech. My mother stole that inheritance and used it to buy herself a mansion. When I fought back, my siblings called me greedy, heartless, a destroyer of families. They said I was choosing money over blood. I paused, looking at the house behind me. But here's what I learned. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst behavior. Sometimes protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. A reporter in the front row was scribbling notes furiously. My grandmother, Gemma, spent her life helping women who had nowhere else to go. She volunteered at shelters, donated to causes, opened her home to anyone who needed it. She left me her money not because she wanted me to be rich, but because she trusted me to use it the way she would have. I gestured toward the house. So that's what this is. It's not revenge against the people who hurt me. It's a promise to the woman who loved me enough to give me the tools to build something better. The applause was louder this time. I cut the ribbon with oversized scissors while cameras flashed. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed and the news crews packed up, I found myself alone in the garden behind the house. We'd torn out Susan's elaborate landscaping and planted vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, herbs that the residents could use to cook meals for their families. "Teresa?" I turned to find a woman in her 30s holding a toddler. I recognized her as Lisa, one of our first residents. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "Not just for the house, but for what you said out there, about refusing to enable bad behavior. I needed to hear that. We all need to hear it sometimes. My ex-husband used to say I was destroying our family by leaving him, even after he put me in the hospital twice." She shifted the toddler to her other hip. "But you're right. Sometimes protecting yourself is the most loving thing you can do. How are you settling in?" "Good. Really good. Emma loves the playroom, and I start my new job on Monday. We're going to be okay." After she left, I sat on the bench we'd installed under the old oak tree. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the news coverage. Congratulations on the shelter. Dad. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back, "Thank you." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Your grandmother would be proud." I hope so. I'm proud too. I should have said that a long time ago. I closed my eyes and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Not the hollow victory I'd felt when Susan was arrested. Not the satisfaction of proving I was right. Just quiet, steady peace. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it, but something made me listen. "Teresa, this is Felix. I found something when I was cleaning out the files from your grandmother's house sale. It's a voicemail she left on my office phone about a week before she died. I thought you might want to hear it." There was a pause. Then Nana's voice filled my ear, thin but clear. "Felix, it's Gemma. I've been thinking about what we discussed regarding Teresa's inheritance. Whatever they take from you, make sure you build something better with what's left. That's what love does. It builds. It doesn't tear down, it doesn't punish, it builds. Tell her that for me, will you? Tell her to build something beautiful." I sat in the garden as the sun set behind the house that had once been Susan's dream and was now home to families rebuilding their lives. Tomorrow, Maya would wake up in a safe bed and draw another picture of stick figures holding hands. Lisa would go to her new job knowing her daughter was cared for. 12 families would have another day to heal, to plan, to hope. I pulled Nana's locket from my purse, the one thing Susan hadn't been able to steal, and walked back into the house. In the main hallway, I hung it on a nail beside the framed photo of Nana that served as our memorial wall. "I built something beautiful, Nana," I whispered, "just like you asked." The house settled around me with the sounds of life. Children laughing, mothers talking, the hum of people building better tomorrows from the ashes of their yesterdays. It was the sound of love made visible. It was the sound of home,